Welcome to another Talko Tuesday on Spacetime Taco, of course. I'm your host, Nate, aka Little Teapot. I'm joined by my good friend James, Hero1Cosplay. Say hi, James.
What up, y'all?
So tonight we have another show for you guys. Something in the same vein that I did with Kimono Jones about 2 weeks ago. We're going to try to make this a regular feature on the stream. Um, And we've got some topics lined up. I chatted with James earlier. Some of the stuff, one of the topics is something we actually chatted about last night. So I think we're just going to segue into that immediately. We were chatting a bit. You were chatting at me in stream chat while I was painting. We talked a bit about difficulty in games versus accessibility. Um, and so I don't know. I mean, my take on it has kind of always been the same. There's really no reason for a game not to have like easier modes on it, or at least to have a gradual difficulty curve to it. Something that doesn't just like outright punch you in the nuts as soon as you start the game. Um,
Yeah, I think lack of a difficulty setting is lazy game design, personally.
yeah. I mean, well, the other side of this, and I don't know why I bothered, but I got in arguments about this all the time with people, especially. I mean, the game series that's known, or I guess the game genre now, that's known for being difficult, kind of on purpose, um, would be any kind of Souls-like, right? As you've got, of course, the entire Demon Souls, Dark Souls series, Bloodborne. Um, you've got things like Dead Cells. You've got
Yeah,
stuff like Enter the
Sekiro.
Gungeons, Sekiro,
Well,
all that stuff.
at least with Dead Cells, the game those game designs like Dead Cells, Call Heroes, things like that, um, they have difficulty settings. Like Hades, for example. Hades has a mode where the more you die, the easier it gets. So even though you're still getting the experience of roguelite, you're also, you know, eventually you'll hit a point where you'll be better at the game, one, and two, the game will have enough buffer for you to be able to experience the game as intended without crippling frustration because you can't beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, Hades is legitimately like the one Souls like that I actually enjoy playing because even like as you're going through missions, you're collecting stuff that helps your character get stronger while you're playing the game, right? Is like you get I forget what they're called, the little purple drop things, and then you can purchase upgrades with those. You get,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
that's the genre difference between the Souls like and the roguelike. Hades and stuff like Dead Cells are roguelites where as you're progressing, you're getting stuff. Whereas Dark
mhm,
Souls game, you're just getting punched in the mouth as you're progressing.
yeah. I mean, the other side of this argument, a lot of people like to sort of cast this my way and a lot of other people's way, is this idea that there's authorial intent behind certain difficulty settings in games. Not really even settings, but for example, like the difficulty in Dark Souls is that it has to be hard because Dark Souls takes place in like this extremely oppressive world where everything sucks all the time and everybody's miserable and everything's out to kill you. But my argument against it has always been, people want to experience that world and they feel put off when, that first sort of death that they have in Dark Souls feels so cheap. When it feels like they're kind of being robbed of the experience because it isn't like, oh, we're gradually building up to a wall we're putting in front of you. You start the game and there's the wall. And you can't really find a way past it unless you just sit down and master mechanics that the game doesn't tell you about for a very long time. Um, and I don't know, have you played any games that are like that where it's just like, here's a wall, you can't fucking get past it, and you just don't want to play it anymore?
Yeah, I mean, like even with hell, Elden Ring, I played it, I beat a couple of bosses, but beating the bosses in Elden Ring is not a relief inducing like feeling. I don't feel like, oh, finally. I'm like, oh, thank God it's over. And that's the difference. I don't feel accomplished. I'm just glad that it's over with, so I can keep exploring the world outside of this boss that I'm gated in front of. But like even prior, look back like at our childhood, like Mega Man up until Mega Man X came out, it was pretty much just drop you in the game and good luck, and you just threw yourself at a stage repeatedly until you managed to beat it, and then hope that you got the right weapon for the next boss. That there was no way to tell, up until Mega Man X when they did a fantastic job of introducing different mechanics, game design, and Mega Man X games feel much less oppressive to play than the original Mega Man games, but they're still difficult.
Hmm.
Which um the a difficulty slider does not take away from the author's intent, in my opinion, because the story's still there. Like, it's just like games like almost every open world game now has a difficulty that just says story. Even the Star Wars game, can't remember the name right now, but the last one that came out was a single player game.
Yeah, Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order. It has a story difficulty mode, even though in its base difficulty it's still a harder game, more towards the Souls like end of things, but not as bad. But
Hmm.
the narrative is still told on story, so games can do it. We've been doing it throughout all almost all game history at this point. You've got easy to very hard, beginner. You got even Madden sports games. Yes, you're not like if you play through the Madden career mode on rookie, you're not getting the experience of being a rookie in a football sim. You're just playing the game and you're like a freak of nature instead of a rookie, but you're still enjoying the game. And I skip out on Sekiro. I haven't played Sekiro. Neo, haven't played Neo through because these are games that I'm interested in, but I don't want the few hours I have a day, the game, playing a game where I'm throwing myself at a wall repeatedly.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand.
I don't want to be a bit frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, for those of us in I guess the grown-up world with jobs and other responsibilities, it's kind of putting us off of those experiences because we like you said, we don't want to come home and just deal with an exercise in constant frustration. Um, we don't want to be sitting down playing Sekiro one day and then, oh shit, I missed that parry, which has like a half-second long window, and now I'm dead and have to start a level from the beginning. Um, that is, to me, that's a very shitty feeling. I can understand for some people, like, once they triumph over that moment, they can get that kind of relief for me. But if you get to the point where you're playing a game, like you said with Elden Ring, and it's just like, oh, I beat a boss and finally I'm done with that, it's out of the way, that's not really a sense of relief. That's not a sense of accomplishment in any way. That's you just having some catharsis dealing with that frustration.
Yeah,
um,
I just like it's done. Thank God. Moving on.
yes. And I mean, we've had that. I mean, we've had that in games with. There are certain games that have like hidden dynamic difficulty to them. We played, still play a lot of Call of Duty together, or just any FPS, Fortnite, whatever you want to call it. And the difficulty there is built in sort of the whittling down of players in something like a battle royale, right? It's like it doesn't take a whole lot of brain power to acknowledge like the people you kill very early on that game, they either got unlucky or they're just not very good. Versus the
Yeah,
people who usually last to the end are usually decent. And so we do this, but there are games that we played of games like Fortnite or Call of Duty where we're like, oh, thank God this shit's finally over, because our team will just get raffle stopped the entire fucking time we're playing. Um, and that may be because maybe there's a hacker in the game, or there's just somebody who like no life's Call of Duty and plays it for like 16 hours a day. But that's different, I guess, from a single player experience where to me it doesn't take anything away from those people who want to play on like dick puncher mode for me to be able to play it on an easier difficulty, right?
yeah, but like even with Call of Duty, like on a rare chance that I have, a bad game, it's over in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I still get XP at the end of the game. I still progress through my battle pass. I'm still going forward, even though I had a bad game and got my wig split.
Yeah.
It's not like I have to beat that team in order to play another team in team deathmatch or whatever. I don't have to keep facing these guys over and over and over and over again. Okay, I lost, so move on. Cool, it happens.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a bit about Monster Hunter because we've been playing far too much of that lately, in my opinion. um, and I don't really think there's too much Monster Hunter to play. I mean, there's what, like 16 fucking different weapons to play with and just 80 gazillion monsters to fight all the time. But I think we talked about how Monster Hunter kind of handles difficulty perfectly. Is it starts you out on the easy stuff where you're fighting things like maybe Kuliaku or Great Azuchi or Baggy or something like that, and then it'll throw a monster that we would like consider a wall at you, something like Anjanath or Magnamalo. And that's where the game is like, oh, you actually have to learn how these monsters fight now. You can't just take hits and keep swinging. um, I feel like if
Yeah,
more games took that approach, they'd probably be more accessible.
and like with Monster Hunter, typically more times than not, when you die in Monster Hunter, if you're not wearing obviously under level gear, if you die, it's probably because you screwed up. You did the zip fly when you shouldn't have, or you didn't dodge, you dodged the wrong direction. It's most times than not, it's your fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you misplayed, and you get 3 times to die before you actually fail the mission. It's not
Yeah.
like if you certain events are obviously one time, but generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking, in order to progress the story, you have to beat a monster, and they all have weaknesses that as you fight them, the game shows you more and more. And if you are struggling, once they're at certain health, you can just capture them. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to actually kill them.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting game. It shows you how to gather. It shows you how to do things. Shows you how to hunt. And then you're not, you know, if there's a monster you just can't figure out beat, there are other key quests you can do instead of that one.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones you have to do are the urgent. So like for some reason, you just can't beat a Tigrex. Fight something else
Yeah. Well,
and get help.
there you go. Well, Monster Hunter has a lot of other mechanics into it that lets you do that. I mean, of course, if you're playing like we're playing, we have friends that will play with us and help us beat some of those stronger monsters. But even when you like go up to the quest board, you can do it as a join request and just have randoms join your game, which we've experienced is sometimes a great thing and sometimes a horrible
It'll
thing.
it'll miss, mostly miss, but sometimes hit.
Yes.
But like even in the Souls games, if you're struggling and you get a friend to help you, that your friend gets squished down like stat wise.
Hmm.
So you still have to suffer through that fight.
Yeah.
It's not like he can come like for Monster Hunter. If a brand new monster like a Monster Hunter is playing the game and they need help, I can go into that low rank game with my high rank stuff and not get shrunk down, and just stomp the monster for them.
There we go.
If that's what they want. If they want to fight it, then I'll take it easy and help them learn how to fight it.
There we go. Well, I realized that when I went back and did the village quest, and then I'm like, kill that monster how fucking fast? Like,
Yeah, you just lost something. And I think like I would entertain the Soul series more if they had a difficulty setting, you know, or if
hmm
they had like true actual co-op, like for real, not this summoning stuff, and then when the bosses die, you got to resummon. No,
hmm
don't want that either. I love the world of Elden Ring and Dark Souls. I think it's interesting. I think it's neat, but I am never going to experience it if I don't care to play it.
hmm
Even the game Absolver came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I think Absolver is such a cool idea, but
hmm
they built it like a Souls-like game.
There we go. I
So I'm not going to enjoy that. Like as much as I try it, I hate it.
no, I think I remember getting to a point in Absolver where I was like, this is just too fucking much, really.
Yeah, it's just martial arts Dark Souls. Like I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like and it's once again it's a game where you can't turn off invasions.
hmm
No difficulty slider. If you die, you lose whatever the resource was that you were using.
I mean, I think that's one of the worst mechanics that Dark Souls introduced was invasions, because if you're in a game where you can't turn them off, that means anyone at any time can invade your game. And if you're someone who, gets to that point where invasions finally become a thing, like you're just starting out in that world. Everyone
Yep.
else has already leveled up, so it's like built-in trolling in the game. um, and some people are like, oh, well, it's just going to make you a better player. Like, it doesn't make me a better player to play against somebody who will kill me, like, in one hit.
it makes you not want to play.
Yes.
Um, like Sniper Elite, the new one, was it 5, 6, whatever's out now?
Mm-hmm.
It has an invasion mode. I think it's so freaking neat
Mm-hmm.
because enemy sniper drops to your game. You kill them, they kill you. They don't drop into your game with like this insane level gap and skill gap. I've got a rusty broadsword and a bucket shield, and this guy has a glowing two-hand sword. And I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat. It's different. The invasion thing works, but once again, it should be optional.
Yeah. I think that's true. I mean, I think it'd be much better if it were optional, and I don't know. I mean, I get why people make the arguments they make in favor of keeping that difficulty high, but at the same time, like, I wonder if the companies producing these games, like FromSoft is one of my favorite developers ever. I mean, they made my favorite game series of all time, Armored Core. And eventually we're getting Armored Core 6 sometime later this year. And I remember when that game was announced at the Game Awards, like, all of the press, everyone immediately was like, so is it going to be anything like Souls? Is it going to be anything like Souls? And, like, they were like, no, it's going to be like Armored Core has always been. And for those of you who have never played an Armored Core game, Armored Core can be difficult. You will get to a point in that game where shit will just destroy you. It doesn't matter how good you made your mech. It doesn't matter how good of a player you think you are. There's stuff out there that is just insane, and you have to use every little bit of skill you've learned up to that point to overcome that obstacle. But that's kind of a good thing because you're using the skills you've learned rather than going against something that can just one shot you if you make a tiny mistake. Um, and because the way Armored Core is built is like over time, if you Armored Core has sort of a debt system built into it. So when you go into a mission, you spend at the end of the mission, you're paid out whatever that mission's payment is, but then you have fees deducted from it. For example, like if you took damage, you have fees deducted for repairs. The ammo you spend, there's a fee for that, and so on. And if you just outright fail a mission completely, you're spending a lot of money. But they introduced this unique thing that I think Dark Souls could benefit from in a way. And this goes all the way back to the very first Armored Core. It was called Human Plus. So if you got enough debt, they would like induct your character, your mercenary, into this program where they kind of upgraded you, kind of almost like a cyborg kind of thing. And then the game restarted completely from there, but what you had was some kind of hidden bonus attached to you. You dealt more damage, or you had better heat management, or whatever it may be. Um, I just think it would be cool to add something like that to a Souls
Yeah,
game.
you need like there needs to be. I think I fully understand the appeal that people have for it, but whatever, not my problem. Um, there needs to be something for any and everyone. Like every other popular game has uh, options for accessibility. Even Fortnite being a battle royale,
Mm-hmm.
they have bots. Like if you're getting on that every day in game and getting trash, you'll get queued up with bots, so you can still play and enjoy the game.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. There are people who will Smurf accounts just to play against bots. So, um, but anyway, um, you had mentioned battle passes earlier, and that kind of segues into our next topic that I wanted to talk about. Um, I've had some, I guess, I'll just say unique takes on battle passes and other microtransaction models, monetization models, um, in games on our podcast, our bi-weekly podcast, Spacetime Talko. Um, and I guess as an introduction to this topic, I'll bring it up this way. You bought and played Chocobo GP for a while, right?
Yep.
And it's a decent karting game from what I've seen.
Yeah.
But later on, Square Enix kind of got the dollar signs in their eyes and introduced things like battle passes and microtransactions to it. Do you feel like that detracted from the game in any way, or did it add value to the game?
I think battle passes that only strictly add aesthetics, and I don't mean characters. Like, so my issue with Chocobo GP was the first battle pass. In order to get, I think it was Squall or Claw, one of those two, you had to have the battle pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a FF8 tattoo. FF7 my favorite Final Fantasy game. I am not going to miss out on either of those characters being available for me. So that is something that makes me scratch my head. Same way that Battlefront 2 had when it first launched, you had to play open X amount of their little loot boxes to
Mm-hmm.
maybe get Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
I think that's predatorial.
Yeah.
So big no on that. But games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, any shooting game, honestly, Overwatch, Battlefield, Halo, where you are going to be playing anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to have something to play for just neat stuff to look at, right? Like
Yeah.
I bought the battle pass for Overwatch season 1. Didn't finish it. Don't care. Don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like I wasted my money.
Mm-hmm.
But had there had been something in the battle pass that I really needed to be like, if there was like a character at like level 60,
Mm-hmm.
I would have sat and played Overwatch miserably. So I didn't miss out on that character, because when you have a PvP based game, you need to have every character available. That's why I dropped Rainbow Six Siege.
Mm-hmm.
Giving all the operators
Yeah.
was something that you can buy with real money.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't spending money on the game, but they put you at disadvantage per se. So I think Chocobo GP's Battle Pass was kind of terrible
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't much in the game to add aesthetically, except for colors, things like that. You didn't, there were no skins per se, just like a recolor of a vehicle. So that one aside, I think Fortnite and Call of Duty's Battle Passes have it. They've got it. It's phenomenal. Halo Infinite, not so much, but that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole other issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chris and I have discussed Halo Infinite's terrible implementation of that at length. We've discussed that off podcast at length as well. For those of you who don't know or maybe have not played Infinite yet, one, get out from underneath whatever rock you're living under. And and two, we had, it was that terrible thing where your whole battle pass progression was tied to these challenges. And a lot of the challenges were like specific to certain game modes that you may not even want to play. And the way that we've grown up with battle passes is like, oh, well, you get XP as match progression, like based on your performance, and then challenges are something extra to add to that, right? Is you get a little bit extra XP here for, like, say, getting a triple kill in a game or something like that. So Halo did it awful, and I think the only people who sat down and really completed like a battle pass season in Halo are people who just played nothing else but Halo for like several months straight. Um, and that's kind of the issue with a lot of battle passes these days is for some people it feels like a second job you have to take on. Like you get home and you're worried about, okay, I have to get this many levels in a day to make sure I complete that battle pass versus it just being something extra in the game that I'm getting rewarded as I play. Um, in Chocobo GP specifically, I'll mention this. Were you aware that Square Enix is shutting that game down?
No, I don't care. I haven't touched Chocobo DB since my one little party I had. I just, first of all, you know how I feel about the Switch. I think it's a terrible console. So there's that. But no, like, yeah, but then like Square Enix shut down for GP, whatever. It should have been online
Mhm.
anyway. Like there was so much about how that game was launched that was wrong. You know,
Mhm.
being forced to play online, L. Being
Yeah.
forced to compete in tournaments to progress, L. Battle passes in a cart game, L. And Chocobo Racing was one of my favorite PS1 games. I love it. I enjoyed this one through, but I stopped playing because there was no way I was going to keep playing online.
Mhm.
You know, I play cart games to relax. I don't play cart games to sweat, and that's one of those games. You know, Mario Kart the same way. People who play Mario Kart are really good at it, and I don't play dealing with that. Like I just don't play online. It's really simple, you know.
Yes.
But I had the option not play online. Halo, real quick though, before we leave Halo.
Mhm.
My biggest issue with Halo was there was no progression outside of the battle pass. Like I did not have a level. I can't be level 200 in Halo
Well, yeah.
and then have my battle pass at level 2. You know, if you weren't leveling
Mhm.
your battle pass, you weren't getting any progression. And they want you to win a capture the flag game. People don't play a special capture the flag. So, anyways, yes, go on.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, those were always the worst, right? Is like, hey, win this objective-based game where everyone is just playing team deathmatch around the objective.
Yeah, right.
And I think, well, just jumping back onto Chocobo GP and Square Enix's closure of that game, I think the reason it released so terribly is Square Enix has had this kind of run of releasing a lot of games as live services. They did this with games like Final Fantasy: The Last Soldier, which was supposed to be like a hugely popular thing, right? Is you're a soldier in the Final Fantasy VII universe, like you get to make like your own cloud in that game, but it launched as a live service. They had another game, Babylon's Fall, which they roped Platinum Games into developing. The single worst game Platinum has ever made. Period. Um, and now we're finding out that Warner Brothers is going to make Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League require that you always be online, even if you're playing the game single player.
All right.
And
Hold on real quick about
mm,
that. This has been something that's pissed me off since the Xbox One's announcement.
mm,
We are always online anyway. Why does it matter?
yeah,
Like, I the Xbox One lost so many features because
mm,
the whole world cried about always online activity. We are always online. Like right now, my Xbox is in the other room, online, on. I'm not even touching it. Anyways, sorry.
well, no, I mean that's fine. I think it. I think the problem that people have with it, the problem that I personally had with it, is it has a lot to do with DRM protection for video games, which is kind of a gray area at the end of the day. But I think the other problem people have with it is anytime they hear that a game requires you to always be online now, it kind of reeks of turning something that could be a single player experience into a live service model. And the issue with live services these days is a lot of games are just turning into marketplaces with some kind of game mechanic attached to it. And those game mechanics don't necessarily even have to be good. This is just a way for a publisher to milk money out of consumers.
Yes, people complain about that aspect of live service games, but then they play, Quick One Unite, which is a very hollow MOBA wannabe. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun as hell, but like it does nothing to say with it. It's still a live service game. I think big AAA games should, except for like big AAA games that are co-op that have co-op capabilities, that makes more sense. Should always be live service, or at least have a roadmap built out.
Mm-hmm.
Two games right now one of which is one of my favorite games I've played in a very long time. Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights. I had so much fun playing Gotham Knights. We got Heroic Assault. I had a blast playing through that. Beat it. I did all the extra content. I've got level 60 gear on all my characters, all my Robins, and there's nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
Nothing at all.
yeah. I think I think that's a failure on kind of the development front, is they didn't really have a plan after that. um, and it kind of sucks because like some of the villains they introduce even in the story are like villains that I wanted to actually have some fights against, but they just get regulated to background characters. Um, like I get that the Penguin is supposed to be like this guy who's on the straight and narrow now, but you know, DLC with the Penguin where he breaks that streak and does some villainous shit, or just introduce literally any of the thousands of other villains that exist in the Batman universe as DLC content, and they're
But
just not
also,
doing that.
yeah, there's also, you know, at least four characters they could bring in. You could have Huntress, you could have
Hmm.
even Black Canary would be like cool to play in this kind of game. Huntress, Black Canary, Signal, Damien. Although I hate him, so I'm fine he's not in the game. But, Cassandra, Cassandra Kane. There's so many other characters that could be in this universe, and they're
Hmm.
just sitting on it.
Oh yeah.
Also, another one, as controversial as it is, you know, Hogwarts Legacy is destroying it in sales and success right now. But
Hmm.
there is no planned DLC, nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
Which I
which
mean,
is just wild and to me.
yeah. Well, that's surprising to me too, because as good as it, despite my other opinions about the game, you know, it's done well in sales, like you said, and it's kind of crazy to me that a game that's doing that well would they just kind of shirk the opportunity to make that extra
Yeah,
money on releasing extra content for it.
they just sit on it. Yeah,
I mean, J.K. Rowling, despite her opinions, and this is just objective at this point, she's a bad author. But she crafted a world that people find interesting and they want to enjoy parts of that world. And if you have this game, Hogwarts Legacy, and you know 50% of that game is being in school and the other 50% is going on adventures outside of the school, you know, there's more of that world to explore beyond that. You know, introduce DLC where you go to one of the other wizarding schools and you experience the differences there. Um, or introduce some of those sort of background villains she's written about throughout the lore. I mean, the game, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, takes place in like the 1800s.
it takes place well before the Harry Potter series. I don't know, like I don't know anything about Harry Potter
Okay.
as a I'm not a super fan, but it does take place before that. But there are carriages and shit. So, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what I think 1800s is right, but like there's so much. Like even without leaving the world that like the Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, all that area,
Hmm.
there's so much space on the map.
Hmm.
Although it's full of stuff, it's also empty, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
that's always been a problem with open world games, though, is a lot of open world games are a map, and the developers are just told like put shit on this map for people to do. Um, Games like Far Cry suffer from that quite a lot.
yes.
um,
Yeah, like the Far Cry not having like until you get playing Far Cry is painful to play.
oh yeah, like
I can't
walking.
say I did not experience that feeling in Harry Potter where like I hate being out here. Where's my mount? You know?
Hmm. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess one last thing to kind of wrap up this topic here is I don't know how recent it is, but some countries have had, I mean, whole political events over things like loot boxes and other monetization systems in video games. You had mentioned before how things like Battlefront was kind of predatory at the beginning, where it was like the only way to unlock certain heroes in the game or to even get better cards in the game so you could upgrade yourself during actual gameplay was to spend money or slowly grind out
Yeah.
these
Pain.
loot boxes.
I can't remember what the someone did the math
Hmm.
and and it was same for Diablo for Diablo Mobile. I can't remember what it was called, but
Hmm.
it's some insane amount of hours without any money spent to get
Oh yeah.
maximum everything with taking RNG into account. I'm not playing a cell phone game that much. I'm not playing Battlefront that much.
Well, I think for Diablo Immortal, it was so ridiculous, something like 40,000 hours of free
Yeah,
to
it was
play
something.
time.
Yeah, silly.
um,
And like I I like the idea of a loot box.
Hmm.
I do not like loot boxes being the only way to get stuff.
Yeah. Well.
Like, I don't want to play your Christmas event 800 billion times. I keep not getting the skin I want in the chest. Hell,
Hmm.
for example, FF14, you
Hmm.
know, they have raid drops. But at the end of every raid, you get a token, whatever it may be. If by the 10th run, you don't have whatever item you want, like your weapon, for example, for your class, you get to turn in those 10 tokens and pick a weapon.
Hmm.
So, you still have the traditional MMO farming for a raid drop. But it's also like, all right, look, man, bad luck. Here you go. Take this. Go buy your weapon.
Yeah.
That feels good.
Well,
Like you still have the joy of going, oh man, yes, I got my drop.
I assume it would, considering I know how long some of those raids can be. um, I mean, we're not back in the days of 40-man classic WoW raids where you had to sit down and plan like a 12-hour day with your buddies. Um,
Yeah, no, those days are gone.
but from what I've heard and what I've seen, Final Fantasy raids can be extremely difficult and they're very heavy on
Speaking
mechanics.
of difficulty and
Mhm.
perfection, Final Fantasy 14 does an excellent job, probably the best job I think in any game
Mhm.
with difficulty and progression and casual versus you know heavy player.
Mhm.
They have, for example, they have like the raids. You can do your normal mode, get your drop and leave. And then they have, savage or extremes and ultimates or yada yada yada, where you actually have to have a coordinated raid group, raid night, keep trying to get it done. So you
Mhm.
have people like me who hop on every now and then, do the weekly raid, get his drop, and go about his business. And then, you have your hardcore players who are on, raid nights, Wednesdays and Fridays, 10 p.m. Be there. We'll keep trying till we get past this wall. Also cool. Yes, the drops that you get from those extreme and savage raids are better, but the drops you get from the regular raid are good enough to play all the in-game content.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
this. I mean, that's good though that they have those options in place, so that way you can basically decide how much pain you want to be in every
yeah.
time you play Final Fantasy.
You pick what you want to do. You can get on there. You can go into an extreme raid. You can,
Mhm.
oof, we already did it. We beat this trial. Cool. Or you can get on and just turn your brain off and do it and just chat while you do it, which is how it's how you want to play. My biggest issue with MMOs when I was younger is just I just didn't have the time to dedicate to get the max level and then get to a high enough gear level, do the raid, and then do the raid.
All right. Well, the other thing that I wanted to bring up, just specifically about loot boxes and other monetization mechanics, real quick, is I mentioned how in some other countries there's been like whole top level political discussions and debates over this stuff. Some of them even becoming full blown cases or ballot measures or even bills. There was a story that came out a number of years ago concerning Fortnite specifically, where kids, specifically younger kids in school, were being bullied by their peers because they didn't have like the latest skins that came out, or some of them played with default skins.
Mm-hmm.
And this turned into legislation in a lot of countries because there were stories of kids getting a hold of their parents' credit cards and buying like $1,000 worth of FIFA Ultimate Team packs and stuff like that. I think it was Belgium and Australia really the top of the list there, where they were ready to introduce legislation to age restrict loot box purchases and classify them as gambling.
Yeah, because they are gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think much like when we were younger and the Pokemon craze started,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine how many kids were taking parents' money and going to the store and buying Pokemon cards. Right? It's the same thing. When you have something like loot boxes or Fortnite where it's unprecedented, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people can say whatever they want about Fortnite. Fortnite changed online gaming as we know it. Knew
Yeah.
it, I guess. Fortnite is an unprecedented phenomenon, and no one can be prepared for when stuff happens like that. Just like with COVID. No one knew what the hell to do with COVID. It was unprecedented. It was brand new. But no, they're right. I think there is a huge gambling aspect of loot boxes. I'm glad that they're mostly gone. I would not mind um wouldn't mind them being around, but they definitely need to be different than they were. Um Games like the Elder Scrolls Online have loot boxes kind of sort of, but they're built into the background. You know, you don't have to even entertain them.
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, I forget about them, but no, it's fun. Like I think it's fun to have things like that. I think they should be maybe tied to in-game currency
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to real life currency to get rid of that gambling aspect. But like, because most people who play MMOs, like
Mm-hmm.
seriously, have umpteen bazillion whatever the currency is for the MMO, so they're just sitting on money.
Yeah.
You know, you add the loot box for in-game money, and then this person can sell the items, flip the items, have a contest, have a giveaway, whatever. There's things to do with them.
Mm-hmm. Well.
But no, I think stuff like Battlefront 2 and Overwatch's previous stuff
Mm-hmm.
legally could have been banned, and I would say I get it because it's gambling.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Overwatch especially because I spent far too much money on those loot boxes, and you open a loot box, you get like a duplicate, even something like a gold skin, a legendary skin, and it's like, here's your 50 coins, fuck off.
His 4 coins cost 5,000 to buy a skin. Yeah, exactly. But then well, my issue with Overwatch, like I said with the event earlier, like I love event skins, holiday skins, Christmas, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Overwatch had them, I'm like, yo, I want this, this undead McCree or this zombie Pharah skin. I got to get it. But then the loot box would be a blue and 3 whites 106 times over.
Yeah.
So I'm like, screw it. I'll just buy loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have, like, I would rather spend, like, say for example, I would rather spend $10 on a skin than $5 on 5 loot boxes to maybe have the skin.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Also, I think they should also be like an another way to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of Final Fantasy 14's event holiday stuff, you just do a quest line and you get it. But they have other holiday stuff that you can get in the store. Like, cool. Hey, get online, do this Halloween event, trick or treat every day for a week or whatever, and you can get this whole Halloween costume. Cool. Done. Did it. Love it.
Yeah.
Or, hey, all right, you finished the quest line. Here's enough of our in-game, of our, premium currency to buy one holiday skin. I'll take that too. Something,
Mm-hmm. I think that would be good. I don't know. I guess the argument that people have levied against that is, I can see how this applies to things like MMOs where they've got servers to maintain. They've got a troubleshooting staff and a development staff, like, always ready to add stuff to the game or patch things up, whatever it may be. But for other games where that isn't really a thing, where you're kind of just sitting down and enjoying an experience that's made to be completed, it kind of begs the question, like, how much more does a game like that need to be monetized, right? If I sell a game to you for $60 and it's supposed to be an experience that you start and complete, then why do I suddenly need to make more than $60 on that game? Why do I need to sell you cosmetics or in-game items or XP boost or a battle pass for that game? Versus just having a way for you to unlock that stuff in-game. That never made any sense to me.
Yeah, I can't think outside of Assassin's Creed, which is a whole nother.
Mm-hmm.
That's a single podcast topic right there. That can go on forever. I can't think of any games outside of Assassin's Creed and Immortal Phoenix Rising, Ubisoft, both of them, where it is a standalone single player experience that has a cash shop.
Mm-hmm.
For Assassin's Creed, especially Odyssey,
mm-hmm.
the game is so astronomically large that a shortcut here and there I would gladly pay for. Like if I can
Mhm.
spend like $5 to get this material, Jesus Christ, give it to me. Like I don't want to sail to the opposite end of ancient Greece or wherever the heck it was to get this material when I can just buy it. I'll take that because once again, back to our earlier conversation about time.
Mhm.
Even though it's not difficult, is I would rather be stabbing guys and sailing the open seas for 2 hours looking for stuff. Um, but Ubisoft has lost their glory.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this a long time ago. Ubisoft trying to introduce shit like NFTs into Ghost Recon and all this other nonsense that they've been up to, despite the fact that they have a lot of problems internally at their company. Um, they they run kind of the monetization gambit big time. I don't think they've released a game probably in the last decade that didn't have some kind of monetization
Yeah,
model
no,
attached
even,
to it.
like, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla has a mode that's kind of like Dead Cells, where it's like a roguelite, and it's so cool. And it's neat as hell. It's fun. I love it. Some people get on these games and that's all they play for a decade. I and hey, like if someone's willing to pay for this golden suit of armor, then so be it. Like
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, no one's forcing you. A battle pass for single player games dumb. I
Hmm.
think these cash shops and stuff like that should be only on multiplayer live service games.
Gotcha.
Um, they are harmless, you
Hmm.
know, like Fortnite and all of its monetization madness. At the end of the day, it's a pew pew contest.
Yeah.
Like you're not, characters don't have these crazy varying hitboxes.
Mm.
There's no odd job skin, for example.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
I think we mentioned this when we looked at the Hulk skin in the game, how fucking tiny the Hulk is in that game,
yeah, yeah,
because they
it's
have to shrink him
comical.
down.
Yeah, it's comical, but it's good from a balance standpoint. Like it's hilarious, but
Hmm.
it makes sense for the game. You
Yes.
know,
Well,
um,
because if Hulk was actual size, he'd just be a walking hitbox.
yeah, and he wouldn't, and then if they did that and they gave him more health to negate it, then people would run squads with two Hulks and then two small characters, and they have two tanks, and then it'd be a whole nother game.
Oh yeah, it'd be Battle Royale Overwatch at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a whole nother game. Um, no, like even like Call of Duty has like tracer packs.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if my bullet is red, pink, purple, yellow, or just a regular bullet. It's still doing the same amount of damage.
Yeah.
And if you want to pay $20 or whatever to get your fly earphones with the cat ears on it and
Hmm.
pink bullets, more power to you. I love it. I would do it,
Yeah.
but you don't have to. And we're straying away from early on. A lot of these online payment stuff, loot boxes, whatever, were following a cell phone game model
Hmm.
where it was pay to win.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we have seemed to win the battle against that, and it's not anymore. They're
Hmm.
moving away from it. The last one that was kind of like that was um, Battlefront, really,
Hmm.
and that was I'm used to it at this point, so I think it's fine. I think we're in a safe place for loot boxes or battle passes,
Hmm.
thankfully. Um, even games like Destiny, Destiny has a gazillion things to do, and they still have a season pass that you can buy if you would like what's in season pass, some materials, some emotes, some
Hmm.
skins, and like weapon appearances that you don't really need necessarily to have to play the game. It's cool. It's like, hey, look, I was here for this. Look what I got. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
But unlike on Halo 3, you're not missing out on like the ninja armor because you can't play every day all day to get it.
yeah. I think when I was playing Destiny 2, I think it played to its strengths in the fact that if you wanted X piece of gear, it was always related to whatever content you were running to get that gear. You could run like the bounty things where you run the arena fighting stuff and you would get gear
Hmm.
based on that. You would earn tokens for it, or you could run the Crucible and get Crucible tokens and buy Crucible focused gear.
Yep. It was
Um,
sort of the same.
and even with their events, it was like you can run this event while it's out and you can get gear that helps you do better in that specific event. Um,
Yep.
and I think Destiny has done an excellent job with its balancing and the fact that you can get Crucible focused gear, but understanding that that gear is Crucible focused and will not perform the same way in
In
PvE as it
PvE
does in
and
PvP.
and vice versa.
Yes.
And they just added loadouts,
Hmm.
so even better.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think we've kind of run the gamut on this topic. We'll move on to our last topic for the night. This one was really short. Um, this one may take us a little bit longer to get through, but it relates to us specifically. Um, you you affectionately give me half of Black History Month, but
And you're welcome for that.
the last topic I want to bring up for tonight is POC representation in games. We mentioned some stuff about Ubisoft earlier, and we've always kind of joked. For whatever reason, Ubisoft and a lot of other game studios can't figure out how to do black or 4C or whatever you want to call it hairstyles.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's just a lack of effort, honestly.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I come at it from, because as someone who studied 3D modeling back in my college days, um, it really shouldn't be that hard to do. And I think for a company like Ubisoft, as big as they are, there's really no excuse for not doing it.
No, it's straight up laziness. And with the division, for example,
Hmm.
dear God, the hairstyles, right? And then
Yeah.
even in the off chance that a game, well, not the off chance, it's kind of common now, but when games do have, actual black hairstyles, they
Hmm.
don't have facial hair to match it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got I've got a nice little curly fade, but then I've got a freaking my beard looks like a freaking Irishman's.
Yeah.
That's not how facial hair grows, and that is almost more infuriating than not having any black hairstyles at all.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
but the the assets are out there. If you can
Hmm.
look at, I hate to say this, but NBA 2K, for obvious reasons,
Hmm.
has the black hairstyle game down. It's there. There's like 30 different styles of hairstyle. They've got parts. They've got all kinds the designs that we like in our hair.
Hmm.
Um, Pokemon's getting it now finally. Hell, I hopped on Guild Wars 2 recently, as you know, and
Yeah.
they have freaking black hairstyles now. Like it's there. People are doing it. Hell, and then the excuse about games like Elden Ring. Oh, it
Hmm.
takes place in ancient Europe or wherever the hell it takes place at. So
Hmm.
wild to be by people. I'm like, dog, we just died, but not really. What do you mean? Why are we talking about realism here? It's just such a lazy
Hmm.
excuse. Any game, especially a military game like the
Hmm.
Division, when you custom a character, needs to have black hairstyles because they are black folk in the military. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's all. It's like, and in fantasy games, if I want my Warrior of Light, Cough Cough Final Fantasy, to have a fade with a side part and a lightning bolt in it, that's what I want. If
Hmm.
if I can have 85 different white folk hairstyles, I can get like 5 or 6 black folk hairstyles.
Yeah.
Um, it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's aggravating more than anything to turn on a game, create a character, and then not see yourself. Like I can tell you how many cell phone and RPG games I've uninstalled because my character creation is it's just white, white, or pink as the skin
Hmm.
tones, and the brown skin tone is like lighter than you are.
Well,
I'm like I don't want that. Did I
yeah.
delete the game?
I experienced that with 40K Darktide, which we tried playing together.
We did try.
Um, but when I played on PC, I had made an Ogren character recently, the big bulky guys.
Mhm.
And it's funny to me because there are darker skin tones in that game that you can select from, but to get the Ogryn even close to looking dark enough, you have to pick the darkest one. It
Yep.
is the weirdest thing. And the black hairstyles in that game are like mohawk dreads and dreads. That's what you
Yep.
get. um, versus something like, even in Monster Hunter, like when they gave us that free DLC and we got like fades and
Like,
afros
yeah,
and stuff.
exactly. Like 15 different hairstyles. But
um,
in
well, I'm just thinking about how a game that's like primarily Japanese focused, like Monster Hunter, is
yeah,
huge in Japan and is kind of just a
yeah,
niche thing in the U.S. For them to just come out and say like, "Hey, we have black hairstyles and we're
yo,
releasing them for free to everyone."
dude, Pokemon could have gone unchecked
Mm-hmm.
on black characters and black hairstyles because people love Pokemon, and
Yeah.
no matter how much of a stink we made about it, it would not have mattered. But they chose to do it right. So kudos to Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo. But
Well.
yet we've got like these, North American game studios, cough, Ubisoft. They
Mm-hmm.
can't seem to get it right.
Yeah. I think it's weird for Ubisoft too because they're actually, I mean, they're primarily based in, I believe, France, and they have some studios up in Canada. Um, it's weird to me because of just the history that black people have with France.
Bro, France's whole World Cup team was black.
Mm-hmm.
The,
Well,
all of them.
I mean, they've got a history with that, with black people in France. That World Cup team, like you mentioned, Haiti, as we know it, isn't a thing
Yeah,
without
right.
France.
Freaking
Um,
Haiti, as we know it, is definitely not a thing at all. Oh, as we know, yeah.
but it's strange to me that they wouldn't put any effort into it. I guess the underlying question here is, and I'll just pose this to you as a straight question because I have my own take on it, but why does representation for people of color in video games actually matter?
There is no point where, video games are all fantasy, regardless of what you're playing. Sports, yada, yada, yada. Every genre is a fantasy for us because we're the player. I have never once fantasized about being any other race except for mine. Even in D&D, when I make an elf, that elf is a black elf, right? I'm not trying to be a long blonde haired elf. That's not what I want to do. Um, Stuff's magic. It's inspirational. When you see yourself in something, whether you want to be an artist or you want to play football or basketball or whatever, when you see your people represented in a medium, it makes you more in tune, inclined with that medium, and it feels nice. It feels good. It feels like you're included. You don't want to be not included in stuff. You don't want to go out with your friends all the time and then no one talks to you while you're out, right? It's the same. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same kind of thing. If my white friends can make their character exactly look like them in video games, why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to make this fine ass black lady with a nice curly fro in my Soul Calibur game, why can't I?
Yeah.
um, Stuff matters because there are people everywhere in the world of every color, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's lazy.
Well, yeah.
It's laziness to create a world that doesn't involve every color.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning more and more every day that there may have been black folk in this place, X amount of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Vikings were here. This Viking may have been a black Viking. Oh boy, that just plays everything we know his history. Every like couple of months we're seeing stuff that new discoveries. Old archaeologists have excavated a town that shows they were using smoking tactics similar like we were using in our foods in the Americas, but thousands of years ago, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Human history is broad, people everywhere. The best we still don't have a black princess to this day, Disney wise.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've got what Tiana from Princess and the Frog, and if you
But
went,
she spends the movie being a frog, so it doesn't.
yes. Well, that's the thing that we've talked about on our podcast as well. Is Disney has a hard time letting black people just be black in their movies. um, they
Yeah,
always
like
get transformed in some way to be something else.
yep.
I
I
mean,
think
even in movies like Soul that focuses
yep.
specifically on a art form invented by black people, doesn't let the main character be black for a majority of the movie. um, and even goes as far to just do this sort of internal race swapping thing where it's, oh, the white girl's in the black guy's body now. um, but there's even more of this. I mean, how long have we dealt with games? Some of the most critically acclaimed games ever. If we look at series like Uncharted, God of War, Last of Us, uh,
Kratos gets more and more white as the games go on.
yes, I mean, there's a canonical reason why he is
No,
that
no, no,
way.
no, no. I mean features wise, not skin
Oh,
wise.
well, that's true. And it's weird to me that Kratos is that way because his voice actor is a black man now, right? And I think what games are missing out on here for the sake of just trying to remain apolitical, because we live in a world where white is the default color for people, right? So in a way to remain unpolitical, it's just, okay, make the character a white guy,
And give it a
make him
black voice.
straight,
Yeah.
and, you know, never imply that a character's race in any way informs their experience throughout their journey. Um, I think one of the biggest affronts to this for me, and it sounds weird to say it, is Grand Theft Auto 5, where we get one character who is black, who lives on Grove Street, and our first experience with Grove Street was all the way back in San Andreas.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a major part of that sort of early 80s, late 90s LA culture that gang culture that they were trying to explore. And then they kind of just do away with that in Grand Theft Auto 5. Franklin is basically a third wheel in that game. The
Yep.
story is so much more about Michael and Trevor than it is Franklin at any point.
But shows. This is very very prevalent in shows and movies, especially shows. They have a habit of trying to check multiple boxes for representation with one character. Like, look at the Arrow show Arrow, for example. Arrow, one of my favorite shows ever. Well, we got Mr. What the hell's his name? Mr. Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Terrific. He was black, checkbox there. He was gay, checkbox there, and his boyfriend was white, interracial, checkbox there. You know.
Well, I guess that's kind of where we have to draw that line between what is actual representation and what is just pandering, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I say it all the time. I don't care, pander to me, dog, whatever. But don't make me a checkbox. Like,
Yeah.
You can tell when representation is intentional, deliberate, and not just done to hush you up, which is pandering.
Well, I think the most egregious thing in recent memory that I can think of is the third Star Wars movie in the sequel trilogy, where they have two women kissing in kind of like just a short scene at the end, and then when that movie is launched internationally in certain audiences, that scene is just cut.
Oh, don't even get started on the international audiences. How do you have Black Panther
Mm-hmm.
and you can't, and you have to put him, you don't have to, you elect to agree to put him on the Chinese poster with his mask on because you don't want to show the face of a black man in China. Wild. Anyway, so back to representation real quick. Princesses, because we got off topic. I am, as you know, I cosplay. I love it. When I do Captain America, I am almost always stopped by a family or two when I'm out, walking between the con or whatever, that wants to take pictures with their kid. It's a white family. The little white kid is excited to see me, just like he would be to see a white Captain America, right? They don't care. And I think people need to realize that these children don't care if Captain America is black. They want Captain America. They don't give a damn.
Yeah.
But when I see a cosplayer cosplaying Tiana and
Hmm.
a little black girl sees them, it's a whole different reaction than I see when I see a little black girl see like a Belle or Cinderella, other princesses. Even though the gowns are also amazing, but Tiana, hits home because there's no other black princess.
Yeah. I mean, we got the whole TikTok sort of stitched together reel of little black girls being shown the new
Oh
black
yeah, Little
Ariel.
Mermaid.
And all these girls are excited because it's, oh, she looks like me, and so on and so forth. But I think it speaks to this broader concept that race itself, I'm getting a little philosophical here, but race itself is a social construct, and when you're a kid, you don't really have a concept of that as a child. Like, that has to be ingrained in you. And part of that is, what society pushes on you about race. Part of it is what your parents may, force down your throat as a kid. But, you get those inspiring moments, like you said, in cosplay, where you as a black man are out there cosplaying Captain America, and these kids really just don't give a shit.
Yeah,
They
like at
just
all.
they
See
just
Captain
are
America.
excited to see Captain America, right? Um, and we have to have this kind of disgusting fight, really, against a lot of adults who have this idea in their mind that somehow we're taking characters away from them by introducing more of ourselves into those stories. And that I just never understood. Well, I can't say I never understood it, but it turns my stomach quite a bit. um,
I think the most harmful thing we can do to our youth is to raise them to not see color. Right?
mm,
I think that's wrong. Because when you don't see color, you don't see culture. You don't see the people, differences. You don't see the history, especially in the U.S. with black culture. But even like Ms. Marvel, I think is arguably the best show on out of the MCU because of the deep dive into her culture. It's
mm-hmm.
a huge part of her character, and people don't like it because you know they've all but said it. It's because it's not focused on whiteness. It's about her, and they don't want to see color.
Yeah,
So it's gone from this, you know, on the surface level, the intentions behind I don't see color are good, but it evolves to I don't want to see color as they get older, which is where we're at now.
yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, we've had all these political debates about CRT and stuff like that, and all this nonsense where you're teaching my kid to hate America and so on and so forth and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, if you don't pay attention to that history and you don't have a focus on representation in your media, then you are literally doing what you're accusing other people of doing, and that's just erasing history entirely. You're trying to take a whole demographic of people out of the equation because you're worried that it'll make you look bad in some way.
Yeah, and the more prevalent, the more we get black princesses and things like that, the less we have this conversation because once things become normalized, then we move on from it being a fight, right?
Mm,
Like, hell, case in point, I 100% now confidently when I go into a game, make a character, I expect there to be black hairstyles, and there almost always are. Even Guild Wars, which came out like a decade ago, right?
mm-hmm.
I had no doubt in my mind that there would be a black hairstyle in there for me,
Yeah.
and there was, and it's because it's becoming so commonplace now that we have moved on almost from discussion about black characters in gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're almost out of that, and I think the next hurdle is to get away from that socially, generally speaking. Like,
Yeah.
people claim to be comic book, fans, but then they see Kamala Khan or Monica Rambeau as a Ms. Marvel or Captain Marvel, and they lose their mind because, oh, it's the MCU now. I'm like, dog, what are we talking about? Also, if you unironically say MCU and you're serious, I have not friendly words for you that I won't say on the stream.
Well,
But come on now.
well, people come up with these ridiculous terms for things because it's just reactionary, right? It's, you know, things like feminazi or, like you said, MCU. It's like, well,
It's so unbearably corny.
yeah. I mean, it's a weird and kind of creepy thing to me because there's still so many guys out there who don't want to see any female or femme identifying superheroes unless it makes them horny, honestly.
Dude, the think pieces about the all women scene in the game.
Hmm.
I'm like, yo, they're fighting a purple man from space. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Does it matter
Well,
about there
that's
being a split scene with all women? It's cool. It was cool. Of course, sure. It's a superhero film. It's superheroes are still kind of corny in general, honestly speaking.
well, yes. I mean, the most overpowered superhero to this day is fucking Squirrel Girl. So, but
Right. What she do? But she does it.
yeah, exactly. Because that's how the comics are written. Is what did she do?
Exactly.
We don't know, but she won.
Right. Freaking Superman, Batman, Gladiator, Century, etc. wore their underwear on the outside of their costume
Hmm.
for decades.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's patently ridiculous. It's superheroes have always been ridiculous, but they kind of have to be because that's where you get sort of that you get the spectacle of superheroes, right?
Yeah, but like you can like look at the Supergirl, for example, in the series or in the upcoming Flash movie. Her
Hmm.
costume looks great.
Oh yeah.
Looks just believable enough. But people would go see the Christopher Reeve Superman movies or whomever prior to
Hmm.
Henry Cavill wearing the old underwear on the outside costumes, and no one said a thing about it.
Well, I think when you have
But you get women on screen together for 1/8 of a second, and it's the end of the goddamn world.
I think when you have a face like Henry Cavill's, you can just pull off any costume, honestly.
Henry
but
Cavill can do whatever the hell he wants to do.
but no, I think back to the probably the single most goofiest superhero costume I can think of is Adam West Batman.
Yep,
With the sketched on brows on the cowl
yep.
and everything.
On the cowl, yes. Hell, Robin in that same era. What are we doing here? Why is he wearing coochie cutters?
I I don't know. I mean, it's always been this goofiness, and I remember back when Witcher 3 came out, there was a discussion over why there were. I mean, I've played a lot of Witcher 3. I've beaten the DLC. I put like fucking 200 hours into Witcher 3. Um, but it's a game with literally, and I mean this 100%. There's no mistaking this. There are literally no people of color in The Witcher 3 at all. None. Zero. Everybody in that game is white. And they're like,
Laziness.
well, it has to be laziness because like, oh, it's from a Polish studio and it's based on Polish folklore and so on and so forth. First of all, you're not going to tell me that no black people have ever set foot in Poland. That's just
Right.
patently false. The second thing that bothers me is what was their next biggest game to come out? Cyberpunk 2077. And that game has a whole host of people of color in it. You
Yeah,
can make your
all
character
kinds.
one. So it's to me there was just really no excuse for it. I mean, even if you have to
Like,
dot them in as background NPCs, like that's
you just
something.
copy and paste the same model and change clothes. It's laziness.
But yeah, I don't know. I keep wondering to myself, if there was ever going to be a way to hold people accountable for that laziness?
I think the cultural for once a cultural shift is taking care of it, right? But
Yeah.
like I said, we have games. Hell, World of Warcraft updated the character builder to include more skin tones and black hairstyles.
Yeah.
Guild Wars 2 did the same thing. FF14 kind of has them, but it's still kind of campy. But it's whatever. Monster Hunter has them. Every game I played in recent history that's been not a mobile game where you can make a character has had them. So I think we are beyond that
Hmm. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I
globally speaking.
yes. I mean, all we can do is hope that trend continues. Um, who knows? Maybe Naughty Dog will get the message finally and release like a good single player game that has a black character in it for once.
Hey, you had the guy on Watch Dogs too.
Well, yeah. Ubisoft did do well with that. Um, I don't know. Probably one of my favorite games with a black character in it is the Telltale Walking Dead series, at least season one, where you got to play as Lee. Um, and at least in one part of the game, his race does inform his experience throughout the game. It's kind of played off as a joke, though. Another character literally said they're trying to get into something that's locked. Another character asks him, "Does he know how to pick locks?" And he's like, "Hell no! Why would I know how to pick locks?" And the guy goes, "I don't know. You look urban."
Yikes.
And Lee goes the fuck off on this guy for like 2 minutes straight. And he's like, "I don't know, man. I'm from Florida. Shit just comes out of my mouth."
Fair.
But uh, luckily, that character Kenny, who says that to Lee, becomes one of the most unlikable characters in the game, and you can kill him off in season 2. But
That's
um,
hilarious.
I mean, we had games like Mafia 3 come out that has a black main character.
Yeah, and it's based it back in like
It's like
not,
1960s, 1970s
I'm not
Louisiana.
I'm not going to say the worst times, but not the not a good time to be a black person in the South, you know?
Yeah. But that's what I would actually like to see in video games is more black power fantasies.
Yes.
Like Mafia 3
Like
has that where you're a black man in a place that does not like you for being a black man, but
Red Dead Redemption 2.
hmm
You can pull up on the clan, even though you're not playing, unless you're playing online, you're not playing a black character. You still take the clan on. That's always nice.
Well, that's hilarious. And the funny thing about the clan scene in that game is you can just stand around and watch it play out, and if you do, when they go to light the cross on fire, the two clansmen doing it light themselves on fire.
Nice.
And it is the most hilarious thing to watch. And when you walk into one of the major cities that's supposed to be like reminiscent of, Louisiana at the time, you can find this guy on the street corner and he's handing out pamphlets and shouting like just the most racist shit you've ever heard in the street. Like it's very old school, like phrenology
Yeah.
style racism. And even though that city is like the one place with actual cops in it, just shot the guy on sight. Really, just didn't care. um, but it's to me, I would like to see more of that, where you're playing as a black character and you get to have a power fantasy
I
as a
almost
black
want to
character.
suffer through Forspoken just to
Hmm.
get that.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Forspoken has technical issues and stuff like that, but it is a black power fantasy. It has a
I
black
just
main
didn't
character.
like technical issues would never turn me off from a game, typically speaking, because I don't always experience them. So like whatever. But I did not like how it felt when I played it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that from a lot of people, but again, it is sort of that black power fantasy. You are a black character in a world. I mean, the game's basically a fucking isekai, honestly.
It is an isekai. Not basically, it is an
It is
isekai.
an isekai, but you get to play as a black character who gains, kind of the ultimate power in that game. Um, I recently sat down and started playing Fable 2, just going through a backlog on Game Pass, and it's kind of sad to me. I mean, I guess it's a product of its time. Even though you can pick a male or female character, you're always white in that game, no matter what.
Yep, Fable 3 as well.
And you can't
But
really do anything
that
about it.
was every game back then, you know.
Yeah, but that's been a history of games. That was like I said, we've got these white main characters in it because white has kind of been the default.
It's default. It's literally a game called Fable. Like
Yeah.
I should be able to be a freaking wolf man if I wanted to. Like you know.
Yes. I think it's I do agree with you. I think we're getting to a part where it's gotten better. I would like to see it go that extra mile though.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we're due for a new hit IP, right?
Yeah.
There hasn't been I can't think of a new IP in a very long time that was like a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that were kind of scratching at being one ended up not being one. Cyberpunk,
Yeah.
Anthem, you know.
Oh
Um,
God. Anthem was such a fucking disappointment.
I love Anthem. It was so fun to play, but if it's what live service games need to not be so obsessed with making you grind for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
did not like playing Gotham Knights, for example. It's a game that is loot based, but
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I was not getting drops.
Yeah.
Or like,
Well.
let me progress. Destiny lets you progress.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you hit a soft cap, and it becomes a little harder, but it doesn't feel like you're not ripping teeth, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, it's well, like I said, I would just like to see that extra step, get that new IP that has a black main character in it, focus on how being black affects that character and how other people react to that character for being black. Hell, have a whole fucking game like Homefront or something like that where you being black is actually a disadvantage in the world that you're in, but your character takes a journey where they overcome that disadvantage somehow.
I don't even want that. I want the good things about blackness. The inside jokes, the culture, the swag of a black teen, if I will.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
I don't. I I, I am at the point of over seeing any kind of racial struggle, suffering from my black characters in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, that
if I want
too.
to do with that, I can go outside and cosplay and post a picture and deal with being called Nigger Captain America, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's you, you on Twitch has my phone number now. Thank you, Noodle, for joining the chat. Um, but no, I mean I would like to see that too. I would like to see more positive black experiences in media as well. I mean we dealt with this run of black media already where it's about the struggle. Um, I recently talked on our last podcast this past Sunday about my first experience watching Get Out, which was recent, and
Oh,
how
dude, I saw it in theaters.
that movie was like it was like someone taking a power drill into my temple in a good way. I don't normally get scared for horror movies, but this movie just freaked me right the fuck out the whole way through.
The
But it
ending. Go ahead.
well, I'm just gonna say it is sort of an allegory to the black struggle in America, right? You know, at least one facet of it is you've got an interracial relationship taking place that turns out very, very poorly for our main character. um, but I remember one line in the movie where he's sitting in that basement and he's asking the guy on the TV, like, why are you doing this? And he literally just says, like, some people want to be stronger, faster, and cooler.
Yeah,
And that's how they see black folk.
right. Yo, at the end, when the cop car pulled up, I saw it in theaters opening night.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in Columbia or Towson, one of those two. And you could hear the collective gasp and the tension rise when the cop car pulled up at the end of the
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
And then in the same aspect, you could hear the relief when it turned out to be his friend, and I had never experienced something like that in a movie
Oh,
until
wow.
that.
Well, I had the same experience. I mean, I'm just sitting here watching it in my bedroom, and the cop car shows up, and my heart just fucking sank. I'm like,
Yep.
shit, the movie's over. It's done with. This is it. Our main character doesn't get out like the movie says.
Uh-huh.
And then, TS motherfucking A shows up because we get
Yep.
shit done. But,
Yep.
oh my goodness. What a fucking movie that was. I'm watching the rest of Jordan Peele stuff. Um,
Us was really good as well.
yeah, well, I'm getting to Us next, and I'll be watching Nope after that.
I haven't seen Nope yet.
But these are movies that we have these black directors now who have become big names in Hollywood because of the work that they do. We've got Jordan Peele making these black sort of psychological horror experiences, and on the other
Yeah,
hand, we have people like Ryan Coogler.
but they're like the experiences are sincere. They don't feel forced.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well, we're past that era of blaxploitation where it's like we're
yeah.
turning black people into a meme
As much as
versus.
I recite this line because I think it's hilarious,
Mhm.
but we're like, there's no I don't give a fuck Keisha character. You know,
Yeah.
as much as I think that line is phenomenal, but although that line is definitely something that would have come from the culture, that character itself is
Mhm.
flashploitation.
Oh yeah.
Although top 10 movie lines ever, easily.
Oh yes. Well, one of my favorites is in Spaceballs actually, where he says "comb the desert" and they take
Yeah,
it
man, we
literally.
ain't found shit.
Yes. And they're the only people coming with an Afro pick. But but we've kind of come out of that era in movies and TV and even games now, where it's less about turning black people into that cultural meme for white people to
Yeah,
also laugh at, and focusing on real black experiences, focusing on things like you said, that sort of those inside jokes we have as black people to each other,
mm-hmm.
those cultural experiences we've grown up with, the things about black culture, dances, food, music,
Yo,
all of that,
case in
and
point,
giving sincere experiences to audiences.
I I made the post about Hogwarts being in the HBCU now. That
Mm-hmm.
is like a prime example of black culture as a whole, like all
Mm-hmm.
different things, parts of black culture, blending into one. You know, you got your HBCUs, you have your gamers. Although once again, we know Harry Potter's a big place
Mm-hmm.
right now. One of those things where in their true self, and it's funny, it's enjoyable, it's entertainment, it's fun to watch. Hopefully, you know, the author will pass beyond this realm one day, very, very soon, like tomorrow, and we can enjoy these things again.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is my hope as well. Um, for everything else, I'll sail the seven seas if I disagree with an author. But no, I don't know. I'm glad that we got an opportunity to do this. I appreciate you especially jumping in at the last minute. Um, for now, though, I think we're ready to wrap up. But before we go, we have a tradition here, a recent tradition we've started, which is our out of context recommendations. Just one thing, anything you can think of that you want other people to check out. No explanation of what it is, just name drop it now.
Check out Blurred and Powerful, Instagram, TikTok, etc.
All right, there you go. Blurred and Powerful. So I want the audience to remember that. Go check it out. We have no idea what it is so far, with the exception that it's on Instagram and TikTok. I'll give my no context recommendation. That'll be Cerberus XT figurines, Facebook and Instagram. Go check that stuff out. For now, um, so James, Hero1Cosplay and all that. Do me a favor, tell me where people can find you. Plug your socials real quick.
Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Hero1 Cosplay. Come say hi.
There you go. Go check out his stuff. He does do some pretty amazing cosplay and has some pretty good photos up on Instagram. I checked those out earlier. Um, we will hopefully eventually be cosplay buddies, but we're working on that. So for now, I just want to thank everybody who did watch, everyone who will watch in the future. As always, you can find me most places at a little teapot or a little teapot 89. You can find my buddy James over here, like he said, at Hero1 Cosplay. You can find us collectively at Spacetime Taco. And if you like what we do here, of course, consider following our channel so you get alerts when we go live. If you really like what we do, consider subscribing here on Twitch. And if you really, really like what we do, go join our Patreon. There's a few rewards there, and we'll give you access to our Discord channel as well. Chris will be back tomorrow morning with his streams. He's doing tomorrow and Thursday. I will be back Friday night with Signalis, as always. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.
Good night.